welcome to Daryl's Bookshelf. I'm Daryl Roshi, and today I'm going to be guess what? I'm going to be interviewing the famous Tracey West, and I'm going to ask her all sorts of questions. And, I'm really excited for it, and, I'll see you guys soon.
Hi, Ariel. I really have enjoyed all your book reviews that you've been doing.
I feel like I'm the biggest fan of your books, and I absolutely have read every single one of them more than twice. I love them.
Oh, that makes me so happy. That means so much to me. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I have a few questions, and I was wondering if you could answer them.
Sure.
So I was wondering where you got the idea of dragons connecting with people.
Where did I get the idea of dragons connecting with people? So, I thought that in a story about dragons, it would be really important for the dragons and the kids in the story to be able to make connections, right? So, it kind of came from that idea. I just thought it would be very important for them to be able to communicate.
So it's like the secret of friendship.
Oh, it sort of is like the secret of friendship. Good communication is like very important with friends, isn't it?
Yeah. And I was wondering why you chose dragons instead of another creature or instead of another creature.
Well, what happened was, you might know that Dragon Masters is a part of the Scholastic Branches line of books. Have you read any other Branches books?
Well, I've read the Owl Diaries books and the Unicorn Diaries.
Oh, I love those so much. And so it was Scholastic who said, well, we have books about owls and we have books about monsters. And Scholastic knew that kids love to read about dragons. And they came to me and they said, well, we know you like to write about magical creatures because I've written books about shape-shifting animals and gremlins and goblins and all kinds of magical creatures. So they said, can you come up with a serious, exciting fantasy series that has dragons in it? And so I have a lot of books about magical creatures, and what I did was I went back and I read lots and lots of myths and legends from dragons around the world. And so I read about, beautiful, peaceful blue water dragons from China and Japan, and I read about fierce fire-breathing dragons from Europe. And I thought, wouldn't it be cool to get all of these different types of dragons into one story? So that's how it started.
That actually sounds really cool because they're all from different parts of the world and then they're all now in one place.
Right, but to do that, I had to create sort of a character who at first you don't know if he's a nice guy or not, right? King Roland.
Yeah.
Because I thought, well, how would somebody get all those dragons in one place? And you would need a powerful person. So I figured it had to be like a ruler like King Roland who had guards or soldiers that he could send out into the world to bring back dragons for him.
And I was wondering, how did you come up with the specific dragons for the Dragon Master Special Edition? I love that book the most, and it's so amazing how you can actually get the height and the width and those certain little details.
Well, I had to do it in as much of a scientific way that I could possibly think of. So what I did was I used a ruler and I measured the dragons in the book and I compared them to the height of the characters. Does that make sense? So if I knew that Drake might be 3.5 feet tall, I saw how many drakes long was Worm, right? And then I figured out Worm's length. And then I did things like I looked up how much does an elephant weigh? How much does a giraffe weigh? To help me try to figure out how much the dragons would weigh. And I feel like I think I did pretty well, except I think probably I should have made the flying dragons weigh a lot less, but maybe dragon magic helps them fly too,
Yeah.
and not science.
Yeah. So I really love the part where you put in about the dragon, the lightning dragon, how it had no energy because it's made out of lightning. Yeah, that's really thoughtful and scientific.
Oh, wow. I'm so glad you noticed that. One thing I do when I try to think of what a dragon's powers will be is I do research, and for example, like the gold dragon,
Mhm.
Hema, is a shape-shifting dragon. And that's because I looked up and I thought, well, what is special about gold? Why is what can gold do? And one of the reasons why gold is so prized is because it can change its shape very easily and be used for a lot of different things. So um I try to do my research when I figure out, if a dragon is electric or um something like that, to figure out exactly how its powers would work.
Yeah. And I was wondering how you came up with the character Drake.
Well, so Drake is a character that, we see the story through Drake's eyes, right? And at the time I started writing the book, I'm a stepmom to 3 sons. So I was imagining it could be one of my sons, right, who would be in the story. And what Drake does is he kind of takes the place for the reader, so you can see the story through Drake's eyes. And when I was trying to figure out what kind of character would Drake be,
Mhm.
I knew Drake was going to be the dragon master of Worm, right? The Earth dragon. And
Yeah.
you're very smart, Ariel. So you probably noticed that a lot of the dragon masters have personalities that match
Yeah, because
their dragon.
I was just gonna say that because like Rory's all fierce and likes to argue, and Vulcan's always like shooting fireballs and always so like agitated and stuff like that.
Exactly. So I thought, well, for the Earth dragon, Drake would have to be like a pretty calm and like
Yeah,
a thoughtful,
casual.
like a grounded person, right? So Drake, you don't find Drake doing anything. He usually doesn't do anything impulsively, like without thinking about it. Drake usually thinks before he does something.
Mhm.
And so once I knew that Drake would match with an Earth dragon, I could start to imagine what his character would be like.
Yeah. So did you ever imagine yourself as a dragon or a dragon master?
I think I imagine myself more as a dragon master, and I think about it all the time, like what kind of dragon would I connect with?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna ask you. What kind
Yeah,
of
so
dragon would you connect with?
I think it would probably be something like a tree dragon or a flower dragon, because
Like
I
the spring dragon?
like the spring dragon. But maybe have you ever seen the picture of the tree dragon in the
Yeah,
guidebook?
I saw it in the myths and legend part of the Dragon Master
Right.
book.
So like where I live, I'm surrounded by trees. So I think it might be some kind of tree dragon or some kind of dragon that could live in my garden. So maybe even like a flower dragon.
Like
What
Wildroot?
like Wildroot? Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, what about you? Can I ask you, Ariel? What kind
Yeah.
of Yeah, what dragon would you be the dragon master
Well,
of?
I don't know. I mean, most of the time I feel like I like to argue a lot. So I feel like I do a fire dragon, but I really like water dragon because they're really calm and they float like they're swimming through the air. So I would say like maybe like some kind of fire dragon or water dragon.
Yes, or maybe it would be the first fire water dragon
That's
that we've
exactly
ever
what I
met.
was gonna say.
That would be so
Yeah,
cool.
like one side is fire and one side is water and there are two heads.
Yes. Oh, that's amazing. I love it.
Yeah,
I think you would be the perfect dragon master for that dragon.
yeah. So I was also wondering, um, which Dragon Master book is your favorite?
I really like them all, but one of my favorites is book number 9, Chill of the Ice Dragon.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons is because I love the snow and cold. And I also loved researching stories about dragons and creatures from the northern part of Europe. And it was
Hmm.
very cool to create the ice giant character. I had a lot of fun with that. And
Yeah.
I also like Mina the Dragon Master because of just how tough and straightforward she is.
Yeah. I love the name Mina. I just don't know how you came up with it. It's my favorite name in the whole book.
Oh, thank you. Well, sometimes for the dragons and the dragon masters, sometimes I try to have names that if you look up the name, it'll say something about the personality. So like Vulcan, the fire dragon, Vulcan is the Roman
Like a
god of
volcano?
fire. Right, because the Roman god of fire's name was Vulcan, and that's where you get the word volcano from.
Yeah.
Or uh Ka, the lava dragon,
Yeah.
his name means fire, actually. And the ice dragon's name is Frost. So
Oh,
Mina,
yeah, that's a
you know,
really good one.
yeah, so Dragon Masters takes place in a fantasy world, but we know that this world is like Earth, right? And so sometimes I look at the place or the culture where the Dragon Master's supposed to be from, and I pick a name from that culture, and that's where Mina came from.
Hmm. There are so many connections in the Dragon Master book series, like the personality connection, the name connection,
That's a really good
and the
observation.
dragon's connection with the Dragon Master.
Yes, exactly, exactly. Wow, Ariel, you I think are a natural book reviewer. That's great. That's what reviewers do. They make those connections.
Yeah, so I also want to ask you when the Curse of the Shadow Dragon is coming out.
Oh, did you know that Curse of the Shadow Dragon is out now?
Oh, it is?
Yes. Here it is.
Yeah. So, who inspired you to create Dragon Masters?
Um again, it was I got a direction from Scholastic to come up with a dragon story. And
Okay.
so it was all those myths and legends that inspired me.
Oh. So, do you believe in dragons?
I so that's a complicated question.
Yeah, same for me.
So this here's the scientific answer. The scientific answer is that some people think that there are, like, when people were farming in the fields and they discovered like a giant stegosaurus skull, for example, they didn't know, they had never seen the skull of a creature that big, and they didn't have the science to know that that was a dinosaur that lived millions of years ago. So some people think, it's just a guess, but they think maybe when people started seeing these giant skulls and bones, they made up stories about dragons. And then other people think maybe dragons live in like an alternate dimension and we
Mm,
connect to their energy. So who knows? Maybe I connect to dragon energy when I'm writing these books.
yeah. So maybe like dragons are actually true and they're like they could be living in any planet. That I mean like there are thousands of planets in the universe.
Billions and billions of planets, right? So
Yeah,
why couldn't one?
trillion.
Maybe there is a dragon planet out there.
Yeah.
That would be cool.
Hmm. So did you always want to be an author or did you like want to be something else as a child?
So interestingly, I I thought about being an author since I was in second grade. And what happened
Ooh.
was I love to read. I love to read books. I remember the very first book I ever read all by myself from beginning to end was called Go Dog Go by P.D. Eastman. I don't know if
Oh
you've ever.
yeah, my brother's reading that book and he still hasn't finished it.
Oh, well, he's gonna love it when he gets to the end because the end is the best part.
I've read it 16 times.
Yeah, it's a good book. And I remember reading that book and thinking, wow, reading is like the coolest thing in the world. And all I wanted to do was read books. And then when I was in grade 2, my teacher brought in her nephew to to talk to us. And he was a children's book author named Leonard Kessler, and he wrote a bunch of books, including one called Mr. Pine's Purple House. And anyway, I remember being 8 years old and thinking, oh, like a little light bulb went off in my head. And I thought, oh, wow, an author is something I could grow up and be and do, right? And so from second grade on, I kind of always thought about it. And there were times when I thought maybe I wanted to be a teacher, or maybe I wanted to be an actor, but pretty much in the forefront of my mind, I knew I wanted to write books.
You know what? I think we're like some kind of mind connection or something, because that's exactly what happened to me. When I was 8 years old, like first my parents said I should be an author because I love books so much, and I'm like, no, I don't want to be an author. It's going to be too much work writing the books, and I have to keep track of all the pages. I have to print them out and all that. And I didn't want to go through all the stress of like signing all the sheets and stuff like that. So then I didn't want to do it, but then I started like telling stories in my class, and my classmates really loved them. So then I told my mom and dad that about it, and they said that's exactly why you should be an author, because you have good story ideas. And so now I've always thought about being an author, but I've always thought I could be an actor or something like that, because like I show talents that I could do that job also.
Well, maybe you could do both, right? You know, there's no sense in
Like
putting any
take tutoring on the
limitation.
side.
Right, why not?
Yeah.
And I know you were talking before about it being a lot of work to write a book. You know, it can be, but it's also, if it's what you love to do, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And the more you write, the better you get at it and the
Yeah.
easier it is. And the more books you read, the better writer you become.
Mhm.
So I hope you grow up to write books, Ariel, and I would love to read them someday.
Yeah.
That would be awesome.
Yeah. So what was the first book you ever wrote?
So the first book I ever wrote was technically it was a Nancy Drew Hardy Boys super mystery book that I wrote under the pseudonym of Carolyn Keene.
Ooh.
Yes. But I was working for a small company that made those books, and that's where I kind of learned how to write books for children.
Yeah. So like I used to, what I do now is like every single free minute that I get, I write small paragraphs and invent new characters. And I really enjoy it now.
That's really wonderful, Ariel. Oh, wow. I'm sure and I think it's great that you know that your friends like hearing your stories, right? Isn't that a great feeling?
Yeah.
So listen, I think we're getting to the end of our time. Do you have one final question you wanted to ask?
Yes. What other hobbies do you have other than reading and writing?
Oh, okay. That's a good question. I love to take walks in the woods with my dogs. I love to play with my dogs. I love to cook and bake, and I love to garden and grow vegetables and flowers.
Yeah.
And I volunteer a lot too in my community.
And are you going to write more Ragmaster books?
Yes, so officially there are going to be 25 Dragon Masters books. After Curse of the Shadow Dragon, there is a book coming out called Dawn of the Light Dragon.
Ooh.
Yes, and after that, we might learn about dragons in space, because that one is called Legend of the Star Dragon, is book 25. And then I hope to be able to make an announcement very soon about what's going to happen after Legend of the Star Dragon.
Nice.